Geography is my love, but I think most of you who have grown up in school. In 2001, North Carolina took geography out of the curriculum, so it was no longer a course taught. And then in 2009, things started changing, and they realized that we have to start making students aware of the world in which they live. So this is a lot of what I even encounter with high school students. Where is the USA if you give them a globe? And if there are no words or anything, a lot of times I will get the wrong location. Most high school students don't even know the Mississippi River from its starting point to its ending point. They usually get confused when it goes to the Ohio River, and I'll get a vast majority following the Ohio River rather than continuing northward up the Mississippi River. So geography is not a well-known topic, and that's about as basic as you can get. It's just location is all it is. So there are a lot of other themes involved with geography besides location. And that's what you all, as elementary school teachers, are going to have to be teaching. So that's what we're going to be looking at. Yeah. All right, so 21st century education. I wanted to start out with global awareness. And partnering that with teaching geography. Because you, as future teachers, are required to implement global awareness in almost all of your lessons. And yet, if you don't know geography, it's difficult to really have students understand global awareness and becoming a global citizen. So, essential questions for today. I don't like having more than 3, but voila, we got 4. Why is geography important? And when I answer that, I'm going to be looking at what is global awareness, because the two really are joined together. Why teach geography? Because this was not taught in North Carolina for a long time. And then all of a sudden, there became a need. What is geography? And then how do you teach? How do I teach geography? So those are the basics of what we're going into. The only essential question that is not up here, that is a geography question, is where? That is a must question for geographers. All right. So why is geography important? And welcome to geography. Are we there yet? That's a typical question. Where is it? Are we there? And typically most of us have asked that question. It doesn't matter how young or old we are. Are we there? I mean, you can be flying in an airplane. Are we there? So anyways, that's a common question. And do we know where is? So that's what we're going to be trying to figure out. First of all, what is global awareness? And this is since 2003, when a book called The World is Flat was published. Public education and the entire education field really has had to do an about turn, because we have become a globalized society through international trade and globalized economy and politics. We realize that citizens, particularly in the United States, need to become global citizens and need to become globally aware of the world in which we live, because we're so interconnected with other countries. And that your students, being in the United States, a nation made up of immigrants, come from many parts of the world. And so if you're aware of what's going on in the world, and your students are, we notice that more tolerance is built within a classroom, appreciation for diversity is fostered, and a celebration of multi-cultures is allowed within the classroom. So when we look at a globally aware person, a person is knowledgeable, has competency, values. These are not American values. These are not Christian values. These are global values, universal global values. And these are found in the United Nations where these countries, these members, have agreed upon 30 values that all countries agree upon. These are called your human rights. Not that they're all guaranteed in all countries. Even some of the human rights that the United States agreed to are not granted to you. So yeah, that's right. So it's interesting to see what other countries consider valuable and will protect as far as a human right and what other countries won't. And these values and dispositions and knowledge will help you to communicate and to better understand what's happening and what goes on even in your own neighborhood. To act in an informed manner, demonstrate empathy. If we don't understand another culture or what's happening, there is no empathy. We cannot empathize, we cannot share feelings or even understand what another person is going through. And so we need to develop empathy and engage effective intergroup communication, discussion. Healthy discussion, not criticism. And the purpose is, we recognize now that through global awareness, if we are competent in global awareness, a true community can be established. Your classroom is the model of a community. And within your classroom, when you focus on social studies, you are building civic responsibility, civic duty. They're understanding their rights and privileges, and as citizens, as growing in this community in the classroom, they're becoming competent citizens. And so your classroom is a microcosm of a community that can then reach out to the rest of the world. And that's the purpose of true education, particularly social studies, where they can cross all borders, many different types of borders. It says boundaries, I call them borders, where it's not just a physical border such as a fence, it isn't just a border such as crossing from one country to another, but we realize that we have religious borders, we have language borders, we have climatic borders, so there are many different types, and those borders impact how people live. So why is global awareness important to you, a North Carolina educator? These are two statements. One is from North Carolina DPI mission statement. You are expected to be globally aware and to embed it in the very mission of North Carolina's public schools. And what are we aiming for? You all are at elementary. Your elementary students will advance to middle school, and then from middle school, I, as the former high school teacher, then had to work with what I was given through the past 8 years to enable them to graduate and be globally competitive with 21st century life skills. And it's critical that these students have the foundation starting in elementary school in order to accomplish the mission that our state's Department of Public Instruction has established. So you are important. It's not at the end, it starts at the beginning. For your teacher evaluation rubric, of which all teachers will be evaluated every year, at least once after, well, there's no more tenure, so forget that. But you all definitely will have a minimum of 3 observations, usually more because 3 formal, and then you will have informal. Some will be pop-in, some will be a little bit longer. But what are they looking for? 21st century appears 13 times in your goals, your standards that you are being evaluated on. And global awareness is connected with that 21st century skill. So whenever they're coming in your classroom, they need to see it every single time they walk in. And the key components of 21st century contact, usage of the skills, and the ability to recognize and tackle global concerns. Even at the elementary level, you are required to do this. This is universal, K through 12, all North Carolina teachers are evaluated on these same standards. So it's not just for high school or for middle school. This has to be also included in the elementary classroom. Okay, is it all right if I move on, or should I? We're good? Okay. So why teach geography? Geography is what will allow global awareness to be fostered. We know that with teaching geography, it is the higher level critical thinking skills in the revised Bloom's taxonomy that students are going to be using. Geography just requires it. And that's why a lot of times most educators don't take a geography course. They say it's too hard. It's not hard if you have the critical thinking skills. If you don't have the critical thinking skills, then you have to be willing to be challenged to learn those skills. And as educators, you want to not just own those skills, you want to be masters of them so you can teach them to your students. So critical thinking skills, definitely a part of geography. Application of technology, there are tools that geographers use that implement and need to have access to technology. So another aspect of 21st century. Geography is also horizontal integration, and I'll go into that with a graphic, but every single subject that is taught, even on a university, is used in geography. Geography is considered a universal subject. So when you teach geography, you are applying all of the other subjects that you are required to teach. And it's a synthesis of those. And synthesis, as we know, is a higher level critical thinking skill. Literacy skills. Sad to say that North Carolina is not the only state that has ranked extremely low in geoliteracy skills. The vast majority of states in the Union score extremely low in geoliteracy skills. It is our former, our British empires, the crowns, they're the crown states. Canada, Australia, India, of course, the United Kingdom. All of our crown states, the British crown, they have extremely strong geoliteracy skills. And no wonder, it is the former greatest empire in the world. Geography was important to them, and it continues to be. So when we look at those who have the best lesson plans out there, you're going to be finding a lot of Canadian sites, Australian sites, some Kenyan, but not too much, and then Australia and United Kingdom, definitely strong, very, very strong, and wonderful lesson plans and resources. College and career readiness, this is if they can really grasp geography by the end of their senior year in school, they really have mastered a lot of skills to have them be successful college students. And as I would always tell my students, you don't want to get into a college, you want to graduate from a college. There is a difference between being admitted and graduating. And oftentimes students' goal is just to get in and not realizing that they need to have skills to be able to be successful. So why teach geography? Another reason. The North Carolina General Assembly in 2009 passed a bill, law number 2009-236. I did not put all of it, I just did the elementary. That your standard course of study has to include that all students, there is a requirement that the public schools provide to all students 1 year-long course of instruction of North Carolina history, and geography. Oftentimes, most of the times, even I've walked into schools, it's the history that is emphasized, and it's as though geography isn't even a word. It doesn't exist. So the General Assembly made sure that it was clearly identified that geography is also to be taught in the elementary school and in the middle school. In 2011, geography a law was passed by the General Assembly to require it to be taught in secondary, 9 through 12 as well. So what do you have to do? You not only have to teach a year-long course of geography, but you also have to include, you can include up to 2 weeks within your own local area. So you can apply geographic skills and historical skills within your local area. And that way it makes the learning more relevant to your students. They can get very engaged if they can apply it to their local area. And it's a fun way to do it. All right, other reasons to teach. You all probably know your standard course of study with their essential questions. I don't know if you've seen how it ribbons together. And that's what I wanted to show you. It is the vertical integration going from one grade to the next, and the building upon skills and knowledge that will enable the students, by the time they get to high school and graduate, to be able to handle the EOCs and pass them in order to meet graduation requirements. Starting from kindergarten, students have to have use geographic representations and terms to describe surroundings. If you're teaching kindergarten, I hope you know geographic representations and terms, because there are no textbooks for you. And if you don't know them, you should be a little bit having some butterflies in your stomach, because you're going to be required to teach something that you don't know. And that's not a good feeling. If you are first grade or second grade, it's the same goal, but there are, with 3 objectives, you're going to be building on, use geographic representations, terms, same thing, but now they're going to add technology and another skill, process information form a spatial perspective. And if you don't know spatial perspectives and spatial critical thinking skills and analysis, then your stomach should be starting to churn. Then we get to another goal starting in kindergarten, understand the interaction between humans and environment, human-environmental interaction. That is critical. It is one of the foundational themes of geography. And this concept continues all the way through 12th grade. So it starts in kindergarten and it will flow all the way to 12th grade. So first grade, understand humans and environment interact with the local community. And then in second grade, you're going to be seeing the interaction of the effects. So here you see how are people in your local area interacting with the environment. And then in second grade, you're going to be examining the effects of the human environmental interaction. Then when you get to third grade, things kind of shift a little bit. They're expecting third graders to have those fundamental skills. And then when they get to third grade, they have to apply that, and it's going to be a new direction for them. They have to understand the Earth's patterns by using 5 themes of geography. There are 5 themes. I don't think, unless you've had geography, you know the 5 themes. And you have to know how to recognize patterns and be able to teach it to the students. So in 4th grade, you're continuing it, but you're taking a little bit closer look. You're not looking at the Earth's patterns. You're taking these themes and applying it to look at human, environmental, and technological factors that then affect growth and development within the state of North Carolina. So they're taking these skills that were learned in 3rd grade and applying it directly into their 4th grade analysis. And it is a geographic analysis of North Carolina. And then in 5th grade, it's of the United States. So starting from small and working out. Typically K through 2, it's going to be local community. And then it's going to become state, 4th and 5th. Sorry, I keep going. All right, so here's another thing. When you teach civics, it has to be combined with geography. And this is where the rubber hits the road. Because when you look at this, understand the purpose of governments. Understand the importance of rules. So 1st grade, they have to understand rules. 2nd grade, they got to understand governments. And then 3rd grade, they have to understand the development, structure, and function. But all that within geography. And if geography is about, places, how do you deal with combining geography with civics? And that's where, the real understanding of the subject will allow you to be able to incorporate geography and civics together. We also see another civics and geography goal, understand how citizens participate in their communities. And this is especially, when we see civics government combined together, that's true global awareness. That is where you can really focus on global awareness. It can be local, and typically it's called global. Global, and local combined together, and it's a great way to make it relevant for your students. Now, I included the 6th and 7th and 8th grade curriculum. This is middle school because your students will be advancing to the next level in middle school. And you need to know what your students are going to be expected to do when they get to 6th grade. And you can see here, this is what they have to do. Understand geographic factors that influence the emergence, expansion, and decline of civilizations, societies, and regions over time. They have to apply all of what you taught them and start using it in historical perspective. So that's, if they don't have geography, and this is what they're going to be tested on, they're not going to be happy. They're going to be really unhappy. And they're going to be wondering, why wasn't I taught this? And your teachers in 6th and 8th grade through 8th grade are going to be really wondering, what are they doing in elementary school? Don't they know that they got to teach this curriculum? And then those of us in high school, what in the world? So, don't we know that they got to pass this test to graduate? And pulling your hair out. They got to graduate. And yet, you got to teach them all these skills from K through up. So they're mad at high school teachers because they're not just having to learn what they had to learn in the class. They're having to learn everything of what they were supposed to learn in the past years because they weren't taught. So I'm strongly advocating to teach the curriculum that North Carolina has established because it will benefit your students, and as they continue to progress year after year, they will be more successful and a lot less frustrated. And that's really what we want, is successful students who have confidence in their knowledge and in their skills. So what is geography? I'm going to give you a quick rundown. I'm not going to go through all of this, but you do need to know what is geography. Most people think it's location. What else do you think it is? Just say it, shout it out.
Landmarks, or like the, what am I trying to say?
Landforms.
The landforms, yeah.
Okay, so not even the terminology is there, and I know terminology was for kindergarten. So good that you have the visual, but it's not good enough to have the visual if you're teaching students. You have to have a command of the top of the subject in order to teach them and be an effective teacher of the subject. So let's look at what is geography, and I just, I like to, those of you who've had me know that I like to apply Bible verses where I can. It's a little stretch at times, but I like to. And the two, all right, so what are the two? Geography has two systems. We have the physical system, physical geography, which includes the 4 spheres of the earth. The biosphere, life. We have the atmosphere, the air in which we breathe, and further up. The lithosphere is the land, the crust of the earth, the soil, the rocks. And then the hydrosphere, which is our water systems, our water balance system, our rivers and oceans, seas and lakes. So it's a study of the physical systems on the earth, and it's a study of human geography, us, people. And it really, to me, I guess the reason why I like geography so much is I saw it as a living out of an understanding of what God commanded man to do. That we were to have dominion over this earth and to be a husband to the earth, to care for the animals and the plants. And to me, this is understanding how is man living out this original agreement between God and Adam. So the human geography encompasses many the cultural, the economic, the political, and many other social systems. It's wide array. But we look at the human aspect. Demography is huge. Demography, the study of population, also plays into human geography. And so you combine the two, and the two shall become one. One subject. So what is geography? It's a science. It studies relationships between or among natural systems, geographic areas, society, cultural activities, and interdependence of these over space. This is the spatial critical thinking skill. Space can be time, space can be movement from one location to another. Space can be it's virtual, such as internet, that is space. So we have different types of space. This is very out there thinking, You got to, as they say, I think out of the box. Yes, you have to think out of the box. That's geography. We're out of this world, but yet in this world, not of it. All right, so 5 things of geography. Location, place, region, movement, human, environmental interaction. These are the basic 5 themes. If you're 3rd grade, this is what you're going to be covering. And it's a matter of these 5 themes are even used in kindergarten, 1st grade, 2nd grade. They're not identified. The students are being exposed to them. They're gaining skills in understanding it and geographic skills, but until they get to 3rd grade, they really don't have the ability to grasp the concepts of location, place, region, movement, and human environmental interaction, really until they're in 3rd grade. So they're being exposed K through 12. 3rd grade, they're getting it. And 4th grade, they should have the cognitive ability to start implementing these concepts and these themes. So critical thinking, this is where I said most educators don't want to take geography because I liked it because I never got bored. Okay, I like a lot of subjects, but I didn't have to target just one. I could just switch on to another subject. So what is it? You have viewpoints. Your viewpoints can come from place, space, or a scale, a gradual scale. Then you have a representation. How are you representing the information? It could be cognitive, all in your head. If I asked you, how did you get here from your dorm to Craig Hall, in your head, you would have a little map. And then if I said, well, I want you to stop by Tucker and then go to Dover Chapel and then here, you quickly putting it in your head. That's cognitive. GIS, this is technology. This is what our government systems use to do urban planning and rural planning. You have to have math models, statistical models. That's something that you all will not be doing, although it is in one of the objectives. I think it's in 5th grade where you have to apply math models and statistical models for data collection. There is information out there, but if you don't know how to do it, how are you going to tell your students? So then we have other disciplines and visual display. Geography definitely is visual. It is visual, visual, visual. I'm a visual. I'm definitely, you gotta be visual. And then you have the synthesis of the two, of the physical, of the human, and then you put the two together and you get human-physical interaction. How is this physical world in which we live interacting with the human world in which we live? And the two have an effect on each other. And depending on where you live in the world, the physical may win out. Or the humans will win out. Typically it's not that extreme. It's a matter of how can we coexist peacefully and not abuse it and not let the earth abuse us. So when we look at spatial thinking, these are just strictly questions that geographers have to ask. These are questions that as you do your instruction and you gauge your students, you want them asking questions. Inquiry is huge in 21st century critical thinking skills. Inquiry is becoming the dominant aspect within the field of education, particularly social studies. So asking geographic questions, and when you ask a geographic question, there's a process. You have to gather information, organizing. It must be categorized or ranked. Somehow there has to be similarities, and you have to reason why it's being categorized this way. Then you have to figure out, how am I going to display this? Is it going to be in a bar graph? Is it going to be in a line graph, pie chart, map? What is the best representation to visually present this information? And then you should be able to start answering your questions after you do that. This is a scientific, very crude outline form of scientific method. So the students are learning a process, a thinking process, when they start working with this. And you can see this was from a British website where they are having to construct a castle. And that's a lot of critical thinking, because they're having to apply their knowledge, but they also have to figure out why. What can they do? So it's a lot of work. It may not appear to be a lot of work, but they are applying skills. And as the way that you set up your lesson, they can then start really applying their geographic skills. So where is it? Always geographers got to know, where is it? Where is it? And where has it moved? Why has it moved there? When did it move there? And has it moved again? Oh no, it keeps moving. So that's what we do. It's constant analysis and trying to figure out where. How are places similar? How are they different? That's fun. How far from a feature is its influence significant? So if you take geography, I can teach you the different ones where you have this dissipation. It's called diffusion of significant features and the types of diffusion that we have. What nearby places are similar, and what is the nature of the transition between places? Whenever we have movement, there will be change. And we all know people don't like change. Change is difficult. Even people who get married, They may think it's all lovely until after they get married. Or they may think that it's really bad, they don't want to do it, they drag their feet, I don't want to get involved, I don't want to make a commitment, and then once they do, it's like, what was I fussing and fighting over? So we have different reasons, but all we know is when people move or transition from one place to another, there is change, and it's gonna be positive, negative, it will have some type of impact. And you notice that I even used marriage. Between being single and being married, there is a movement, and it's spatial movement. It is not necessarily physical, but it is movement. And that is a societal institution that geographers look at. Marriage is an institution in society, and if it is changing, or the parameters and the values of it are changing, why? Why is there a higher divorce rate in this region of the United States versus this region? So that's what geographers are going to be looking at. Am I good or wait? Wait? Good? Okay. So we also asked, where does this place fit in spatial hierarchy? So that's a term that if you're not familiar with geography, spatial hierarchy, what is that? You know, so that's something that you have to look at. What distant places are positioned like this? So always looking at global regions and continents. All of these questions focus on global awareness, all of them. Are there biases, clusters, strings, rings, waves? Yes, these are geographic terms. Biases, clusters, strings, rings, waves. Yeah, it's pretty, if you want. Distinctive patterns, that's what we're always looking for, patterns. Where are these patterns occurring? To what extent? And why? And then the spatial patterns similar. And what we have to do also is look at history. So not only do you see a pattern of something that you're examining in the current time period, but you would also want to look at a similar event in the past, and are there similarities in the patterns? If not, why not? And if there are similarities, where are the similarities? So, spatiotemporal thinking. So this is spatial, and this is temporal. Temporal can be current. It can also be just like a fleeting thought. So how do the features of a place change, analyzing this over time? So you're having to apply history. How do things move from one location to another? Things, please let me explain things. Things are ideas. Things are people, things are goods, things are diseases, things can be animals, things can be types of transportation, things can be leaves, anything. So that's what we're looking at. We're looking at all aspects. And how do they spread through space? How is movement occurring? What's causing this spread? And typically there's more than one factor that will cause the diffusion for movement to occur. We good? So the tools, this is what you all are going to be teaching your students. What are the tools that geographers use? Obviously maps, and you have to know how to read different types of maps. There are many different types of maps. And they are also different types of scales on maps. So map reading, and then it's one thing to read, it's another thing to interpret. So just like it's one thing to read a storybook, it's another thing to interpret its meaning. So these are skills. Map, scale, locational, and we always base our maps on a system of latitude, longitude, unless it's cognitive. If it's cognitive, there is no latitude, longitude. It's all in your head. Aerial photographs. These aerial photographs are through, most popular is our U-2 planes. These are our spy planes, but they have the best technology to take aerial photographs. Remote sensing is satellite, and we also have many different types of Landsat images. GIS, Geographic Information Systems, this is what this is. This is what governments use, and they will, basically what they're doing, it's computer generated. They are layering different types of maps on top of each other to determine where should a road be built, or can the land handle a multi-unit apartment complex here? They're looking at the ability for runoff. If it rains, where is the rain runoff going to occur? So governments use GIS for urban and regional planning. Graphs and statistics, obviously, and the last one that I did not put on here, but it should be something that all of you are familiar with, or I think you should be, GPS, Global Positioning Systems. That's through satellite, and that typically is what you're more familiar with when it comes to a geographic tool. So why do these patterns occur? This is a question. We look at this, and this was homicide. And they are now looking at the occurrence of homicides. This is within a British territory, and they're trying to figure out the dispersion. Where are the locations of these homicides occurring, and to what degree, and what's happening to cause this. So when we look at this, we look at the patterns, we have to consider the weather, we have to consider the time of the year, we have to consider a lot of different factors. And what type of business should locate within a certain community. This is hot. Economic developers constantly use geographic skills to try to figure out what type of industry to attract. You as educators, believe it or not, your local superintendent meets regularly with the county commissioners as well as the economic developer will also meet with him. And basically what they tell him is, these are the jobs we have in our community. We need to keep these industries and we want to attract these industries. I want you to tell your teachers to make sure their kids will have these skills and this knowledge when they graduate so they can stay here and be employed, and the corporations within our community will stay. Now, I don't think you knew that, but that's really what goes on. It is a partnership between public education and the economic livelihood of a community. And they really do meet, and the economic developers really do put pressure on the superintendent to get those kids to learn what they need to keep the jobs in the community. So you will probably, depending on where you work, there will be an emphasis on what they want you to teach or certain skills that they want you to make sure your students know. And it's because they have done the statistics and they figured out what is needed. So this is, you can click on, learnnc.org has a lot of great resources for you, as well as lesson plans. The University of Chapel Hill, this is a hyperlink, but it's a lesson plan, Reading Rosie's Walk, and it's a geography lesson plan for kindergartners that you can access. How do I teach geography? Geography is creating a community and understanding the community, but yet it's you can feel overwhelmed. How do I do this? How do I approach it? So I want to let you know that there are geography courses offered here on campus. I teach physical geography in the fall and world regional geography in the spring. I am currently in the works of developing Introduction to Geography. Really what I want this course to be, and I've got planned and it got canceled, snow days. I'm wanting to meet with Dr. Engel and Dr. Taylor to incorporate a geography course specifically for education majors. Because what I teach in these, it's good, and you could apply it, but what you're required to teach in the classroom, you really need to learn that knowledge, the content, and the skills. And too often in these other subjects, we delve too much. In other words, they expect you to already have it or to be somewhat familiar. So I'm looking at trying to develop a course specifically for education majors, because now it is part of the law. You have to teach it. It would be good to know what you're teaching. And then there is an education course that is offered called Teaching Geography. This is a book. I like the book, Teaching Geography Creatively, and it has a lot of, it goes through the themes, it goes through the concepts and the knowledge, but it also talks about the tools, and it provides a lot of nice lesson plans and ideas for you, and then that way you can create your own and develop your own geography lesson plans for your students. There is also, and this is something that I did with a student who did take Teaching Geography. I had her purchase, choice between the book. This is middle school, and it's based on middle school curriculum. I had her do it just because she really didn't know anything about geography and had never taken a course, and yet she knew when she was going to do student teaching, she's going to be focusing on geography a lot. So she worked out of this book, and it provided, not that she was copying these lessons, but it gave her ideas, and that's really what she needed. And there was times where, how do I teach this concept at my students' level? And that's always difficult. You don't want to dummy down, you don't want to lower your expectations, but you do want your students to understand the content as well as the concepts. So this was another resource that can be used. I talked with Nystrom, who is the publisher of these materials. If you have not gone to the Social Studies Conference, strongly recommend it. You get a ton of free supplies. You get to find out where there are free professional development workshops, everything paid for, including your travel, hotel, and substitute. North Carolina won't do that for you. So it's great. It's a great resource. But these are for elementary. I did ask him for some elementary, so you're welcome to look through this. This is not in support of North Carolina curriculum, so it's just a matter of getting ideas, but it would not support your curriculum. There are also where these are interactive. You can buy, depending on, like if you're in 4th grade, you're having to teach North Carolina, you can get laminated maps, and that way you can have activities done. You give, this is what I did. You give the students dry erase, they can mark on it, fine point, not the fat ones. And you can have them do activities either as groups or individuals, and that way that after they're done, they can erase it and reuse it. So these are good. This one is of the world. It's a nice physical map of the world, and so it's nice to use. These are, the students like it. It's interactive. Not always will you have a smartboard. It depends on the school system you're in. If they don't have money, which mine didn't, we didn't have that stuff for a long time. So, you got to get creative. You got to find your resources, and you got to find the places where you can get things for free. That's it. It's the thrill of the hunt. So that's what you got to do. And this one is of the world, but it is by region. So this is regional geography that would be taught. So I think, so your local educators empowering global citizens. And that's really what you're trying to create. our global citizens, always having them be consciously aware of the world in which they live. Not just their classroom, not just their home or their little town. You want them to be aware of the world in which they live. And we are the world. This is a pumpkin. This was a really creative idea for them to apply their knowledge. It was Halloween time, and so they're decorating the pumpkin, but not cutting it out. They're using geography. So that's a nice creative way to do things. This is for elementary, but if you're passing the ball, you know, you're playing a game or something, you can have a geography game by tossing the world. He's got the whole world in his hands. I always like that. So you can, of course, I don't think you can use that in public schooling. Probably elementary you can. Especially it depends on where you work. I know if you are pretty much up in the mountains, like Avery County and west, not Buncombe County, don't do Buncombe County. Not Buncombe County, but after you go west of Buncombe County, is it pretty much in some of those school systems, they will be reading the Bible and they will be praying. They will have Christian posters on the walls in the hallways as you walk around. Yes? Imagine. Yeah. I couldn't believe it. Public school. Public school, yes. Over the loudspeaker, they all pray together. So, how does geography increase global awareness? The two really do fit together, and it's just a matter of applying it, and we do live in a small world, after all. So, do I have any questions?
Do we emphasize global?
Global. Yeah, global is a 21st century term where we have global, and this could be, so we have our global, we have our world interaction. Then we have local custom, or local foods, local vernacular language. And as we interact with people around the world, we start to slur the two together. And so what we'll get is, I don't know if you're aware or not, but you get to have wrapped up burrito type food at Chick-fil-A and McDonald's. That's local, because it is taking a type of food and combining it with an American food, right? So you have Hispanic culture combined with American culture, and we love it. It's global. So there are a lot of ways that we can see global in the community. And it's fun to do, because no matter where you teach, you're going to see it. You will see it with the students. And the students typically, they're great for music too. You can definitely bring out the music, especially current music that they're into. Definitely a lot of local.
I have a question though. Can you have a true global awareness? Like if you have a child who, you know, lives in a trailer park and they have never been outside of the county boundaries, can they gain a full global, as in the whole globe sense, until they have a local understanding?
They actually could have a better global understanding than a local, because it's easier to escape to another world than the small little one in which they live.
Okay.
So the way that you can bring that, you know, we have modern technology. You can have them watch videos, which is nice. But you can also, through modern technology, there are programs available where you can partner with another elementary school class in another part of the world, and you can have projects where you do them together, and you share that information. They will talk about their villages or their homes and communities, and you can then compare what is it like. Because, you know, I definitely worked in low-income poverty, extreme poverty. And those students really welcome an escape. So they need that escape, and it provides hope. that there's something beyond what they're living in for them to go to. It's very freeing for them. And that's where I really saw that I definitely needed to bring in more global awareness. And it's odd, the vast amount of the world, you know, this is of course being very impoverished, where I was, white population was the minority. We had a lot of different ethnicities within the school. And it was so nice because I said, believe it or not, the vast majority of people have a variation of brown skin in the world. To have white skin is unusual. And that all of a sudden freed them to start talking and to be able to start expressing themselves and who they were. And then when I showed them on the map, okay, here it is. And then you can start talking about why. Why is it located here? And yet why